Welcome to Career Channels, the official podcast of CareerSource North Florida. And now, on to the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Career Channels. We are glad you're here with us. Today, we have Zach Dunlap, the Vice President of Business Development and Customer Relations with Inspired Tech, to go over a few things regarding the IT field. So, Zach, what kind of demand is there for IT right now?
Well, I have to kind of start answering that question by saying that I don't think there ever wasn't a need for IT help or IT assistance. In fact, if anything, from coming out of 2020 and COVID, what we realized was just how dependent we are on technology just to carry out our basic daily lives. So if anything, it really has drawn the attention to just how much we rely on technology in both our business, in education, in almost every single facet of our lives. We are completely technology dependent. And because of that, it increases the need for basically IT professionals in that field to make that technology run and work without disruption. So I would say that if anything, we're more dependent on technology now, and especially with new and emerging technologies that are coming out every single day, it's really changing the way that we not only connect to the world, but connect with each other as humans. So that's a lot.
No, I mean, that's good because we're noticing on our end as CareerSource that we've got a lot more people looking into the IT field as well. Job seekers wanting to find those jobs to be able to turn them into long-term careers or even build their own companies.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that we're tracking right now in the broadband space, the push for interconnectivity across the United States, regardless of geographic location. And what it has exposed is that there is a digital divide. And it exists in our rural communities, and how people are accessing information and accessing the rest of the world is through internet connectivity. And so that has become very important. And what we have seen now is almost and again, I can quote a Department of Labor statistic that there will be upwards of about a 40% increase in the telecommunications industry within the next 5 years. And those jobs have there's no one to fill those roles as they exist right now. That we have there's going to be an influx of that many positions in the telecommunications space as it relates to internet connectivity and broadband technologies without a workforce to fill the role.
Well, hopefully some of our up and coming job seekers and the youth that we try to help let them figure out what they want to do.
Right.
Hopefully we'll have plenty of those looking into the IT field, especially with some of the information they're going to get today.
Yes, and you know that it actually hits very close to home because for those that aren't aware, with CareerSource North Florida, the region of North Florida that CareerSource sits in is considered to be rural counties. That these will be jobs that will be created in Madison, in Taylor County, and in your Jefferson County, your counties that traditionally you wouldn't see high tech jobs being created in. And I mean, that's just the nature of being in rural Florida is you're outside of the metropolitan areas, but these will be jobs that will be necessary and will be created and will be in continuance, because it's not just, hey, yeah, we need you for 6 months to 2 years on this project. It's once this project's done, there's maintenance and upkeep that has to be done with it. And so these will be continually newly created careers.
So speaking of those careers, how many different paths are there for IT? Like, I know you said maintenance, I know you said developing. What else is there that people might be looking into?
So a few of the big, and I guess we have to kind of classify technology as this really big umbrella, and there's a lot underneath that umbrella. I can tell you that from our experience and what we're seeing in doing IT support for county government, city government, state government, and a lot of the private enterprise in North Florida, Central Florida, and South Florida, we're seeing more technology related to infrastructure, in networking technology, complex routing and switching, and cybersecurity. And I would say that cybersecurity is probably the biggest of those fields where there just doesn't seem to be a lot of, there's more demand for high quality positions than there are people to fill those roles.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a pretty wide range of quote unquote IT areas that somebody could look into.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the under the IT umbrella, there's multiple different. It almost looks like little kind of offshoots. Imagine it being kind of like the family tree, where you have mom, dad, and then all the siblings underneath it. That's almost how you could classify the IT job fields, as they have a bunch of different subcategories underneath those categories, with a lot of different specialities related to those categories.
Okay. So, how long have you been in IT?
Well, I have been in my role with Inspire Technologies for the past 7 years. Prior to that, I worked in state government and for county government in the law enforcement space. So I've had to use and be involved in technology for the greater part of almost 20 years now, with these last 7 really being in the IT consulting slash IT support space.
Okay, so in all that time, what would the biggest industry challenge be that you've seen?
The largest industry challenge that I can see would be the kind of the, I would say, the disconnect between where technology is today and where everyone else is with technology. There's always been a gap between, um, where you have cutting edge technology coming out of these, large research areas, your Silicon Valleys, and the way that technology is being used locally. There always seems to be like a 5 year lag behind, where, and in some instances it's greater than 5 years. The other side of that has been having people in not just a job seeker role, but also in a training role for new people and new positions coming into some of these rural areas. And I think of, like, for example, we have cloud technology, and you have a lot of large cities and municipalities using cloud technologies, but your local communities aren't using cloud technologies because cloud technology is completely dependent upon internet connectivity, something that they just don't have. And it's a slow roll to get to that point to where they can connect and they can start utilizing some of these latest and greatest technologies. And that's part of it. There's also the other side of that, is having competent and knowledgeable staff that understand this technology. And a lot of times what we're seeing is a lot of our high tech jobs just, they don't stay local. They leave, they go off to Silicon Valley, they go off to your these technical hubs around San Francisco and Seattle, and then eventually they may come back home after they've spent 15 years in developing in industry. But what I would say is that there's a lot of companies locally, within 100 miles, of just in North Florida that some of these companies are actually cutting edge technology in the gov tech and financial tech space, and they, for lack of a better word, recruitment and retention has been the biggest struggle of those companies. And I can say that from experience. That's one of the issues that we have in recruitment and retention. And what we've had to do is take almost a two-pronged approach to not just trying to go out there and constantly recruit talent to come to work for us, but also hiring people with maybe not as much experience, maybe just straight out of college, maybe they're still in college. And we've started our own apprenticeship program so that we can help train that talent to grow it to what we need it to be. And so I would say that that has been something that we've been very fortunate to work with Career Source and help develop that program and help continue to feed that program along so that we can continue to grow as a company and continue to recruit and retain talent locally.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you guys working on that with us because, like I said earlier, we've got up and coming job seekers. So the more occupations, the more industries that we have that we can offer them apprenticeships or even just basic information on, the better these rural areas are going to develop.
Absolutely. And I think the companies in general, I can only speak for our own experience, but we do an okay job. We don't do a great job. We do an okay job of getting our name out there and trying to educate people about what we do. But what is really a more of a powerful message is when you can get other companies in the same space. Maybe they're even competition with each other, but when you can group together, I may have at any given time 3 to 4 open positions. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you were to take and collaborate with 10 or 12 other companies, they may also have 2 to 3 or maybe more open positions at any given time. And really highlighting and showcasing a technology-driven career day or something of that nature where you're focusing on the IT industry and all of the big players and small players that maybe are in North Florida that could highlight what it is that they do as a company and help, educate the public on what they do, what they have to offer. And in return, also have job seekers come in and apply for those open positions.
Okay. So, with all that being said, for those individuals who might be looking to get into the IT field or just wanting general information, what's a common mistake that a lot of people make regarding IT?
I would say that probably one of the bigger mistakes that people make when they're going into IT field is they're looking at a college degree program as being all they need once they graduate and get out of college, or a 2-year degree, an associate degree, or a bachelor's degree. Their thought is that once they get that degree, they're good. And that, I would say, that is probably the biggest stumbling block for most students graduating and entering into the workforce, is that they forget that even though they have that degree, that textbook was printed maybe 5 years ago and technology has so rapidly advanced since the time that they actually were able to study that in a class and take a test on it to actually apply that theoretical knowledge that they gained to make it applicable, is almost they're 4 years behind whenever they step out. So industry certifications are so important for students while they're in college, while they're going through a training program, even in high school, taking the CompTIA courses, looking at specialized training, whether that's with, Amazon Web Services and AWS, whether that's Microsoft Cloud Technologies, Google Cloud Technologies. because those are things that you're not necessarily going to get exposed to in a college-based program, but an employer like our company, we look at both. Okay, we look at your college transcript, and then we look at your industry certifications, because your industry certifications go a little bit more in depth with not just being exposed to the technology, but showing that you have been exposed to it, you understand it, and you've applied that learning to a certain job function, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And it just makes them a more qualified applicant if they're both walking in with a degree and some industry certification, whether that's industry certification in networking, in wireless technologies. There is a myriad. I mean, a huge amount of information available online for all of these industry certifications. Some of them are free that applicants and job seekers can take advantage of, that will get them ahead of the game whenever they're looking into a specific career field in technology.
That's great to know, because free stuff, who doesn't like free stuff?
Right.
So
and there's a lot of information that's available through these big I would say, like, Amazon Web Services and Microsoft. They have a lot of free educational tools and industry certifications on their website that you can go to, because they, of course, selfishly for them, they want more people who are certified on their platforms, so that just helps them continually grow their business.
All right. So thinking back to when you first started getting into the IT field, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone looking to start out?
I would say probably well, that's a tough question. I can tell you that when I started out, I didn't know anything. So I asked a lot of questions. I probably was very annoying to some of the folks at the office because I asked so many questions. But my advice to anyone getting into the IT field would be ask a lot of questions. There are no wrong questions. There's only wrong answers. But if you just continually ask questions and constantly try to sharpen yourself and sharpen your skills, the continual education piece of it, never stop learning. Always try to know more today than you did yesterday. That would be that'd be the best advice I could give anyone looking into getting into the IT field.
Yeah, because like you said, it's good in the classroom whenever they go through the books, tests, all of that. But by the time they get out into the job market, they could already be 6 months to 4 years behind based on what tech is already out.
Yes. And to when someone's drilling into the IT field, we used to have this concept that we would try to find people that were they knew a little bit about everything, not necessarily experts in one field. They used to call it the Jack and Jill of all trades. But what we have learned in the IT space is that's not a realistic expectation. Most people are very I would say, what's the word I can use here? It would be, they're very specialized in exactly like a specific function within IT. And so I would tell them to look at what interests them and piques their interest with technology, and then become the expert in that field.
Okay, good to know. So, quick recap of everything we've talked about is there is a constant and massive growing demand for IT, and specifically job seekers to fill those positions.
Yes. And I would say with the emergence of machine learning and artificial intelligence, it's only going to get more complex and more in demand, because what you're going to have in the next 5 to 10 years is automation of certain job functions that have never been automated before. And even though we think, oh, it's machine learning and AI, that's just a computer that handles that. No, there's somebody in the background making sure that computer stays functional and continues working. There's someone manipulating that software code so that it can continue to learn. There's somebody that's there as a break fix technician when the technology sometimes fails, like we're used to in our daily lives. Things break and things continually have to have maintenance and upkeep. So that's never going to change. In fact, we're going to get more, as we become more dependent upon technology, we're going to create more technology driven jobs.
So a whole lot of demand, numerous different specialities and paths inside of it. The biggest challenge would be people tend to focus more on one thing instead of all of it, right?
Yes, and I think that one of the other challenges is somebody would, if somebody was to look at technology as a whole, they'd be like, wow, that's a lot. I don't know if I could ever learn everything. And you really don't. Two of the qualities, and just yesterday we were having this conversation at the office. If I could find somebody that cares and has a good attitude, we can teach them everything else. If you can care and you have a good attitude, technology is the technical side of this. We can teach you that's not the issue. Finding folks that care and have a great attitude and a solid work ethic, that's been our biggest hurdle as a company. And so I would tell job seekers, show up early, care, dress professionally, take initiative, show up and show out when you go to work. Make yourself so valuable to the company that we couldn't afford to lose you. That you have a name your own price tool whenever you come into the boss's office and you say, I'd want a raise. Make it so difficult for us to do our daily functions without you that we're dependent on you. That's not, and I would say that probably isn't something that a lot of people would kind of welcome in reception. They're like, whoa, what, why do you say it like that? And the reason I do is because you have to make yourself valuable to have value.
Honestly, I probably couldn't have said it much better myself. So to all of our viewers and listeners, remember, you can call CareerSource at 850-973-9675 for more information. You can click over to our webpage, careersourcenorthflorida.com, or you can follow us on social media to get events, updates, and any other information we might have for you. So thank you all for joining us. And remember, you can find your career path here with Career Channels.
You've been listening to Career Channels, the official podcast of CareerSource North Florida. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about CareerSource North Florida and the services they provide, visit careersourcenorthflorida.com. That's careersourcenorthflorida.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.